what is fascinating about Corona, Queens, New York. Are you ready to discover the secrets in this neighborhood? I am Dr. Carmen Jimenez, co-founder of ProtectTheAngels.org, born in Puerto Rico of Dominican and Afro-Puerto Rican ancestry. I was raised in Corona, and this is Corona After Dark.
it was a dark
It's a
period.
Cuban butterflies.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't even mention the Bill Jacobs days or anything like that. But
Oh yeah, talk about Bill Jacobs, because
oh,
like I have a pair of vibes that you sold to me by him.
These are the vibes.
Yeah, great. Oh no, I appreciate that. Oh man, it's a pleasure for me to have those vibes.
And
Bill Jacobs. Talk about Bill Jacobs.
Okay, Bill. So Bill lived back in the neighborhood
Right.
in Queens, St. Albans, near the Village Door. Well, not that close enough.
Right.
Village Door is really like Springfield Gardens, I think. And Bill lived in Addisley Park in St. Albans. It's a
Right.
little area. So let me tell you about the area.
Okay.
That's the area where Lena Horne, Ella Fitzgerald,
Wow.
Fats Waller, Milt Hinton,
Incredible. All from Queens. I
Oliver
would have never known.
Nelson's brother, Cootie Williams, had a house. Now this neighborhood, this is such a cool neighborhood. Like when I first went there, all the streets are like, all of a sudden 179th Street like stops. And then it's one way coming the other way. And then, I mean, all the streets are like they should be able to go by.
Right.
I learned years later that they did that because there's a bunch of truckers that were going through that neighborhood to shortcuts.
Right.
So they made it really difficult.
Oh, okay.
So there's no trucks that go through that neighborhood. And this is the neighborhood where most of the jazz musicians that I played with and learned from came.
Right.
Count Basie lived my friend Bill, who I was in his group for 13 years.
Right.
He lived in that neighborhood. He actually was part of this map. He had to correct people. They thought Lena Horne lived really next door. No, Lena lived. He had to correct them because he grew up in that neighborhood.
Wow. Yeah.
He would. Lena Horne used to do her laundry with Bill's mother.
Wow.
You know, Count Basie, Milt Hinton, all these people, not all, but a lot of these people lived within half a mile,
Right.
even less,
Right.
near, in this neighborhood. And I said, what's going on with that? And Bill said, listen, he said, this is near the airports, LaGuardia
Right.
here, Kennedy over here, and
Convenient,
everybody who
yeah,
had
for
to travel,
travels,
Lena
yeah.
Horne, Ella Fitzgerald, who lived nearby, they all traveled. So they needed to be nearby, but they wanted their own community.
Right.
So they inhabited this community. Bill's basement, where I practiced for many, the first time I went to Bill's basement, James Spaulding was in the basement
Wow.
with Alex Blake, and I was late. I went to him. I didn't. So I said, man, that's James Spaulding, and Alex Blake, and we hung out and we talked, and it was so nice. I mean, these are, really the greatest musicians, and so anyway, I ended up traveling and playing with Bill Jacobs. We did concerts, we did festivals. We did one in Atlantic City. He took me to Africa. We went to the Senegal, the black arts in the world. We represented America, African music from America.
Yes.
And they had, it was bigger than the world, what do they call that? I forget it was big.
Yeah.
It was big. They had representatives, bands from every country that had come from Africa.
Wow.
The music came from Africa. See how
Right.
things come around? And I'm going to this festival.
Wow, you went to the roots.
The roots. And they had the best bands from Haiti, the best bands from Brazil, the best bands from Cuba,
Right.
the best bands from America
Wow.
went there and it was, who was in that band? It was Alex Blake, Neil Clark, myself, Bill's son, Jared, and then Clifton Anderson on trombone. There was a couple of other players, Johnson, I forget his first name, Ron, I think his name was. All beautiful people, and we did. And Bill has a way. He has, when we first went up, I mean, the stage was so big, like, Neil was like, he might as well have been in another town.
Right.
I said, we just got cell phones. I said, maybe I got to call him on the cell phone if I want to. It was a big, gigantic stage. At that festival also, Randy Weston's group was there. I can't think of, Dave Valentine
Oh, wow.
was
Dave
there.
Valentine.
Only a few groups from
Right.
America. It was 3 weeks of music,
Wow.
like 300 bands from all over the world
Yeah.
representing, the African diaspora.
Wow.
He took me there. And Bill, and this is the kind of person Bill was. He said to me, Chach, he says, I want you to be with me in my band always.
Wow.
He never called, even when I couldn't make it,
Right.
he would call somebody just to
Sub
fill in,
Yeah.
but he always called me. That kind of friendship, that kind of family is what, to me, that's what music, because my family was not,
Right.
so that was my these are my family,
Wow, yeah.
And, from there I work with Alex Blake a little bit. I did a couple of recordings with Alex.
Wow. Right.
And we still get together and laugh and talk about Bill. He passed away, and Jared is doing well now.
His son, right.
Jared is the Comedy Central, the piano player for Comedy Central.
Oh, okay.
Geez. So anyway, that's I get emotional when I think of
Oh, I know. So this is
those
quite
bands.
history, and I didn't know that so many great jazz musicians from Queens. This segment is about Corona After Dark. Great jazz musicians that came out of Queens.
And I was, when I say I was lucky, I was lucky because the drummer for Nina Simone, Bobby Hamilton, would be playing there, or the drummer for Rahsaan Roland Kirk had the gig, or Baby Sweets Edison, the
Right.
drummer. I'd go over the house, and Baby Sweets would get new cymbals and ride over them with a car on his driveway. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, they sound better when they're funky, I mean, and then later other musicians that I met, other guys came up, but
Right.
we all, anyway, I came up at a good time.
Right.
right. People like Dave Jackson. Dave Jackson, nobody knows Dave Jackson. Dave Jackson was his brother is a great
Right.
saxophone player, Ed Jackson. But his brother Dave was the most humblest, just the sweetest, great bass player. Talk about wanting to play. I
Right.
would call him up, we would play, just doing jam sessions.
Right.
Bernard Wright, who passed away, would be in Bill's basement.
Right.
It all came back to Queens.
Right.
My later years, until I started to do some more Latin gigs and
Right.
more of that kind of thing. But my life has been blessed.
Oh,
Jesse,
definitely. It's a pleasure meeting you, and we're gonna close it up. But what will you say to the youth? What's your legacy? I mean, your message to the youth, the upcoming percussionists. What would be your message?
Well, I don't think it's anything new. I think it's I think to study the masters, even if you think they're out of date.
Right.
Like I used to think Joe Jones was out of date.
Hmm.
That's old stuff. Or Chick Webb, or that's the old with Ella Fitzgerald and those. There's a lot to learn. Drum set, for example,
Right.
is only a little over 100 years old, if that. Drum set as we know it. They didn't have drum set over 100. So learn from those first guys, Chick Webb, and Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones, and Kenny Clark. Yeah, you're going to listen to Philly Joe and Art Taylor and Roy Haynes, but there were people before that. Even though the music may sound a little this or that, these people were percussionists. The first drum set was the mallets.
Wow.
You know, there was no sock cymbal. There was a bass drum. They had to read. They had to understand orchestration.
Yeah.
They had to know. And then people like Kenny Clark, who was he was one of Charlie Parker's first drummers.
Right.
They call him the father of bebop drums, along with Max. But Kenny Clark first, not Max.
Right.
Max Roach. Even though all these people have given their lives.
Wow.
And Roy Haynes is still alive today. Roy's, I don't know, I think he lives in Baldwin, Long Island. Check him out, you know.
Right.
Listen to Ahmad. You know, Ahmad Jamal is not in style. Listen to those bands.
Right.
Listen to what those guys, they knew. What they knew.
Right.
You know, I was fortunate. I worked with a singer named Lee Wiley. Lee Wiley, I was across the street from Eddie Condon's and Jimmy Ryan's, and there was a club called was it Al Steakhouse? Something like that. Al Steakhouse. We were a steady band for months. And I used to go, and they used to come, like Roy Eldridge used to come to our club when he took a break.
Right.
Eddie Locke, what's his name? Eddie Locke, the drummer, was his drummer.
Okay.
John Lewis. You want to hear a piano player that everybody should listen to?
Right.
John Lewis. Orchestration. He's not playing, you know, he's playing all the lines of the orchestra.
Wow.
Not just what you think is right.
The whole voicing.
Oh, they say G minor, C7. No. It's orchestration.
Right.
It's the way it should work. Barry Harris, who was here. I'm not a piano player, but just going. I went to Rome to a class with Barry Harris. He had a week workshop. I went to Rome. Why? Because the stuff that he knows.
Right.
He taught all the Motown people that I used to hear. They were all his students.
Wow.
Tommy Flanagan, who played with Coltrane on all those Giant Steps.
Right.
That was Barry's student.
Wow.
Yeah. So I made it my business to try to really listen to, the Herbies and they're all great.
Right.
But the greatest, learn from that old, I don't know, the way harmony works, the way music should be looked at is a lot different than what we think it is.
Right.
You think you're reading, I'll read from the real book, I'll get these chords. Those chords are wrong. Not because they don't fit,
right,
but they're wrong.
Yeah.
And I learned that from the Barry Harrises, the Lenny Tristano. Lenny Tristano lived in Queens.
Oh, okay.
He lived at the Jamaica Estates.
Okay.
Nobody mentions him anymore. Lee Konitz. These are great, great musicians. White, black, Spanish, doesn't matter. Green, purple, me, you.
Right.
You learn from these people.
Right. Well, I had a pleasure of playing with you. I know, like you said,
man,
you were humble.
No.
You gave me a chance. I've never played jazz before. I just started getting into it. A little jazz class we do on Tuesdays.
You play with
Red Parrot, man. We played there.
Listen, Jesse.
How many people, great musicians, went there? And I said, oh, man.
No, Jesse.
It was a pleasure for me to play that.
So I may look at things a little different, but I don't have the mechanics that like these great, I don't have the mechanics, but I have something that I do know about music when the way it should be and the way it shouldn't. And when I play with you, it's the way it should be. You play.
It's an honor for me to say that.
No. It's
because I was taught. My father was a bass player. And he taught me, like just salsa. I never knew anything else. and I learned the music, but it was just straight, 1-4-5, and never got into the theory of learning any jazz, nothing soloing. Now I solo a little bit better, doing those jazz classes and playing with you.
So after this, I'm going to show you a little something, a little something that I learned from Barry.
Oh, okay,
All
good,
right.
great. So we want to end this segment with Mr. Ramirez. And would you like to say anything else?
No, I thank you so much. I thought we were just going to talk about Queen. I went on and on about my life, but
this is what the audience wants to hear. You're up and personal with Mr. Ramirez here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. volveré, 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 volveré.